Participate in a conversation with once conservative, now liberal Midwest mastered prepared special education high school teacher and a self-proclaimed devil's advocate, East Coast conservative liberal, baccalaureate prepared registered nurse. These two strangers met, became instant friends, and realized their conversations are candid and epic. So join us weekly, ask us questions, and listen to these profoundly candid friends try to solve the world's problems, one discussion at a time.
Hey, welcome to another exciting week of The New Theory with Monet and Jared, aka TNT with MJ. I am Jared.
And I'm Monet.
And together we are teaching minds
and nurturing souls.
This week, we got another special guest with us. To be honest, we were a little bit of transparency. We were hoping for a little bit of a town hall, but hashtag teacher life, we're going to monitor and adjust with what we've got. And so we are very happy to have my brother Landon join us this week. And so I'm going to turn it over to him. And Landon, if you would just give us a little bit about yourself.
Yay!
And all that good stuff, man. So.
Well, sure. Yeah. Great to be on. Thanks for having me, and just love what you guys do and just awesome, relevant conversation that you both have. It's just awesome. I have listened to a couple shows that, and it's very unique. I don't think anybody's really doing this in any space. So awesome.
Thank you.
Myself, married 19 years to my beautiful wife, Jessica, 4 kids. We're business owners, small business owners with a few employees. And at the same time, just a good old conservative that, I would say if we're talking about our family, just love our country, faith, and at the same time, all about family, So that's the exciting part. Just love, the entrepreneurial world as well. So that's a little bit about me personally, and also, business and political view maybe.
Would you mind, without giving, you don't have to obviously give your address by any stretch of the imagination, but about what location are you located?
Is your business?
Oh, our business is here in just outside of Fort Smith, Arkansas, about an hour and a half south of where Jared is.
Wow. You're from Arkansas, born and raised?
Uh-huh. Yes, ma'am.
What generation would you say you were from Arkansas?
We are X generation.
Graduated.
Is
no,
that what you're talking
not
about?
that. Not we're all X generation. I'm talking about like how many generations of your family lineage is from Arkansas?
Wow.
Ooh.
I don't know. That's a lot.
Science.
Let's just say all of us were in this area. So, and everybody in Arkansas, we're all family anyway, probably without even moving the tree. No fork in it. Just keep it straight. Keep it straight. But I will say we're not just from Arkansas. My wife and I and our family moved to Oklahoma City for, collective 10 years. And then we did 2.5 years in the great city of Salt Lake City in Utah, which was an incredible experience. So a lot of culture, a lot of background, good friends from all walks of life, all walks of faith, all race, color, everything. Just dear friends. So it's cool. Even though we've got roots as Southern belles and, good old Southern boy, painting red everything, right? I'm just, we've got a lot of, culture that my kids and ourselves have had the privilege of doing business around the world. So it's really cool.
That's beautiful. So your grandparents were definitely there. Like from Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
So at least 3 generations for sure.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And on Jessica's side, easily 5.
Oh, wow.
All of our families here. So
that's beautiful. All right, Jared, I'm sorry.
You're good. So first question, gonna open it up, and so Landon, what do you think America's greatest attributes are, and why? This could be anything from any one of the amendments to the Constitution, tuition assistance, financial aid, any kind of institution or what have you. So what do you think America's greatest attributes are, and why?
Capitalism. If that is okay to say.
Yeah, no,
I think it's, I've met so many people in so many, walks of life that, you know, over in other countries, you know, being in Cambodia, being in Taiwan, being in Haiti and Dominican Republic, you talk to people that love America and they want to come over, but they can't. And they want a better life, but they can't. They have no choice. They risk life and death to do that. Not here. Anybody can come. All are welcome, in my opinion. And at the same time, when it comes to just whatever you can dream, you can achieve. And nowhere else in the world can you do it the way you can do it here. And so I think that's the greatest one.
I agree. I know from traveling abroad from my childhood into my adulthood years, like I remember being in Europe in the 80s and having to pay to go to the bathroom. It was a little mark. It was a coin mark I used to have to put in the stall. I mean,
wow.
You know, toilet paper is a luxury in Asia in a public space, unless you're in a more westernized, you know, soap. Just saying.
It's the squatty potties. Remember those?
Yeah,
All
exactly.
holes in the ground?
And guess when I realized as a woman, you have to turn around and face it. Because I tried to squat over it like it was a toilet. No, because then it just kind of went all over the place.
Well, you know, I tried to do the American thing and, you know, shoot it long and stand up tall. And let's just say it didn't go well. So I'm like, you have to squat. And it's
you got to.
Like,
that's what the little grates are for your feet. Just do it.
I know. So we're talking too much about that. So.
No, I know we advocate speaking candidly and open, but you know, I think that went just a
Sorry,
little. No,
hey, you wanted culture.
Yeah, you want to talk about it. Let's talk
honesty.
About it.
We're asking for honesty and candidness,
but it's true.
Yeah,
I'm
not arguing.
We have qualities in America, from that to the fact that we have established constitutional rights that we really should uphold and recognize and respect. They were set, if you look how they're structurally placed, it followed for the betterment of all of us. Then they are perfect. Our Constitution is a document. It followed for the betterment of Americans, is one of the greatest pieces of paper, one of the greatest structures. I'm trying to think of the best word, because there's so many words I can use, but it's one of the greatest. It's one of the greatest foundations of this country. And it shouldn't be. It should be. And when I say for the betterment, it should be viewed. It should be respected and saying, is this for the betterment of someone? Not to use because you can use the Bible in any way you want. You can actually. Apparently, we are using the Constitution in any way we want, but the objective is for the betterment of all of us. I mean, I have no other country to call home but this one. I was born and raised here. I have generations of relatives here that I'm aware of. So, and being married to a foreigner, I was married to a foreigner for 20 years. I see the potential for this country. But I know for a fact, as a minority, being an educated person, I don't look at minorities that are squandering, like Hispanics and Black African Americans, however you want to, call myself with that respect. I think there's a lot of trauma that needs to be addressed and established, and the use of this Constitution for the betterment of all Americans. And that also includes people that are socioeconomically disadvantaged.
Landon, you want to respond to that before we move on to the next question?
No, it'd take too long to unpackage. I mean, it was an awesome answer. 1 second.
Stop. Sorry, Landon.
No, I mean that. I mean, one thing that stood out to me is that if done correctly, it benefits all parties in our nation. And I agree that the if is there. If we were to talk about that, I would have a lot to say from the research and experience. But no, not yet.
Okay.
We might get to that.
My only concern with that kind of language is to really more emphasize on I know we've shared what we love about capitalism in our nation, but so much criticism is there. And there's so much behind not just your if, but a lot of ifs in our nation, mine and Jared's, etc., those listening. But I really want us to also, just, as much criticism that we have, let's also have as much celebration, because we've exceeded so many people's expectations. In the last 100 years, it's just been astronomical. It's changed the world. And,
you know what? I'm sorry.
And so I think our nation has given other great nations a lot of different ideas, a lot of wisdom, vice versa. You know, we're working as a world the way that we've never have before. A lot of good, a lot of bad. But I just think we also, you know, for everyone, let's chalk up a win as well. That's my only rebuttal.
No, Landon, I think what you're saying is priceless, is paramount, for the simple fact that what we've achieved. There's a lot, I think, as an American, where you find the discourse and the dissatisfaction is from the simple fact that we can do better, period. We can do better. We are intelligent enough to say, hey, not to go as far as saying, well, I guess I have to go as far as saying we've made mistakes, clearly, obviously, acknowledged. But the irony in the acknowledgement of the mistakes that have been made is not a determination of our fail. It's not saying, well, now you're failures because you made mistakes. It literally is like, in the face of the fact that look how much we've done without acknowledging our mistakes. Acknowledgement of our mistakes will then, I think, further our greatness by acknowledging them, making better for them, and making us more of a united States of America. Because what will happen is it's not the animalistic mentality like, oh, we made mistakes, now somebody has to pay. No, it's, oh, we made mistakes. Let's see how those mistakes have now formulated in generational curses, generational mindsets, and let's elevate all of us to the same level. With that being said, it's going to acknowledge some of the greed that we all hate, that we all see, that we all know exists. It's going to acknowledge the disproportionate, how disproportionate our society is, and how it can be, forgive me, when I start getting on a roll, it's like everything wants to come out at once. And it's like, but ultimately, we could find complacency in being content in the life that we have. So like you said, you want to win for all. I think the win will be, okay, we're combating some of the generational curses that have been established because people weren't respecting the Constitution. And with that being said, so ultimately, if I just can condense everything that I just said, we can do better as Americans. I know we can because we've done it.
Well, and that just leads into the next question quite well. So, Landon, how would you, if you had the authority to do so, how would you improve race relations in America?
Well, let's just get right to it then.
You knew what you were getting. You said that.
No, I've had a lot of practice with you over the years. You know, a lot of the back porches. You know, arguing with our dad and our brother. Anyway, it's quite entertaining.
Hashtag good times.
Yeah, Monet, that's what he said. No, I'm kidding. So, you know, I think I'll revisit one of the things that we talked about, Jared, as I've given this a lot of thought, because, you know, this topic for our first couple months was really emotional for me because I felt guilty, or that I should feel guilty for being white. That's how I interpreted what I was seeing. I know I watched this episode. You don't have to respond on it. I know exactly what you're going to say because I've already. And so.
No, I'm reminding Monet of her own rules of facial expressions and
sorry.
and being respectful and stuff like that.
That's why I didn't come on video, because you don't have to see mine.
I knew there was a motive. No,
I'm kidding. But in all seriousness, I'll try to keep it short and sweet, so I'm not taking 5-10 minutes. But I really give this a lot of thought, and stop. If we're looking at it from leadership in America, leading in this way. I think a complete reformation of our government structure needs to be taken into consideration. There's a lot of different ways to do that, but I'm going to just talk about the equal leadership that needs to be there when it comes to diversity. Like, let's start in the local government, that your city council has to be made up of every representation of your city,
Period.
if possible.
Period.
Your mayor, shorter terms, and it needs to, for instance, it's unique in Oklahoma when I lived there, and it's just kind of what made me think of it, is that obviously the Native American background, they're citizens of the U.S. and they participate in city, state, local, national elections, etc. But then in their own tribe, they have their own representation with their own internal government, right? Mm-hmm. And it's unique because it represents their community. And it'd be neat to see that kind of equal leadership across the board to where all of those in every part of the city are heard better than they are now. I hope that makes sense. I know in some way that structure's there, but and maybe even eliminating a need for a mayor and things along those lines. Why put one at the top when we're all at the top when it comes to equality? And when it comes to, I can't speak about the Hispanic community and maybe a friendship and experience that I've had. Yeah. I don't know the background, I don't know the generational, issues and important topics. You know what I'm saying? But someone representing them in the city council and they're part of the city would. And so it would be great to see that when it comes to how to diverse tax dollars, when it comes to education, when it comes to social organizations, when it comes to outreach, when it comes to construction, when it comes to how the city grows, from a corporate standpoint, the business side of things. It'd be great, have a couple of them, as business owners representing a specific group. And so that's one idea of how we can really help with racism, because I think that would show that, we all do come from this background, different backgrounds. We all have different opinions and, values. Obviously that would be different, just naming a few, but we can work together, and this is how it's improving. And I think the city would come together, more appreciate, feel safe. I think, from, law enforcement, same factor. Doesn't necessarily have to be a chief. It could be a group of 4 chiefs. Why not? You know what I'm saying? And it's easy, decisions can be made just as fast, but more information gets put on the table. And so equality of enforcement could be there. And there's so much restructuring. I would love to fire everybody and revisit everything, but that's impossible. I'm serious. It's all corrupt and broken. And even from my conservative background, I just think it's sick. And so those are specific ways, from a political standpoint, from a law enforcement standpoint. And I think that would also impact, obviously, social education in a big way and encourage unity.
I agree.
It starts in our home.
Oh.
And a government doesn't fix it. It starts in our home. And I think we need to see unity in a different way where we can bring that countenance into our home.
I would like to say that your answer is beautiful, Landon, because you're the proverbial white person that a lot of minorities don't meet. Okay. And for you to say that you want equality, you want the corruption to end. But with regards to race, see, ultimately, we want to be at the point where we don't acknowledge it. We don't have to. When we talk about Americans, it's that one. It's easy. It's like, I don't know, let's say you're wearing a yellow shirt, Landon. I would like the American with the yellow shirt on, or the American with the blue shirt on. Do you know what I'm saying? And that could be either me or Jared, because we both have blue shirts on. But my point is, when it comes to race relations, I think starting with the individual, even before you can get to teaching your kids, you have to ask yourself, what kind of individual am I? Okay. You have to question yourself. Is my pursuit in life, is my intent to constantly be negative and angry and frustrated? And where is this coming from? Where is this anger? Then I teach my positivity and my goodness because you got to have it within yourself before you can take it. Because you can say it can start at home, but if you don't even know as the adult what to do, then no. And with regards to race, then how do you interact with people? When I told a group of when I expressed on a public media, what is it called, social media, that I was raised as a minority, as an African American, to not trust white people. And if I were to interact, considering in a lot of cases I am one of none in a large majority of white people, so meaning I'm the only Black person amongst a lot of white people in any given situation, whether it was either school or what have you. Smile a lot, always offer like food or whatever, just so that you can win positive favor. And everybody's like, well, that's disingenuous. I'm like, honey, it is not disingenuous when you look at the history of minorities. I mean, I was told by people I do genuinely consider friends, because I had to let the fear melt away and then look at these individuals as individuals, instead of looking at these individuals as somebody's going to try to lynch me or kill me or trap me. Okay. Not saying that when I see a white person as a minority, that's the first thing I think, but I do have to question myself. I mean, you do have to conduct yourself just so you know you're not going to get the negative actions out of them. And they're like, but we just looked at you as a person. I'm like, yeah, after you got to know me, of course, you may be raised without a racist bone in your body, but the reality is, my history for my people, it doesn't bode well. And those instinctive generational fears are there. It's not, and I can't fix that. I can't change that. It's innate. Okay. But I'm a loving, good, kind person. So I'm not going to change that. That will never change, and that can never be faked. Okay. And I look at it, to basically answer the question again, because that was just a little background, Landon. I do get winded. Just tell me come on, Jared, do your job. Okay, thank you. We need to have these candid conversations with each other, and we don't have to leave as best friends, but we do have to talk. And it's not like a whole bunch of white people taking. I'm gonna give you this token, Landon. I think you're gonna like this. It's not a whole bunch of white people saying, having to endure minorities say y'all ain't right. No. It's, this is how I feel. You got to hear my story just now, Landon. Now I want to hear you say something like, well, how come when I say something, or I see something, minorities are so offended? Because that for you is a question, and it could be any one of those questions. And I know a lot of white Americans are like, I feel like minorities are so sensitive. They don't want us to touch their hair. They don't want to, you know what I'm saying? And the list goes on. They're so concerned about this N word, but they use it in their own music. Why? And it's like, those are good questions. Okay. I can hear the questions like you're so concerned about.
Let him ask. No, let him speak.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Landon.
Go ahead, Landon, respond.
Well, I don't know if you're wanting me to ask that question,
yeah,
or you think I have a question like that.
Then ask your question.
Then let me give you a little bit of my background, and then I will chase a rabbit just like you did, Monet.
Okay.
So, Jared, bring me back to answering the question. No, I'm kidding. I love to say that because we all chase rabbits, just like I am now. But
he's like me, Monet. He likes to hear his voice.
Yeah,
no, well, I am in sales. But I know Jared's probably shared a little bit about our background living here in the Bible Belt, being in a very small community of a city, 99.58%, white. I went to school with one or two African Americans, and I'll say that's one sensitivity I have, is to say the word black anymore.
You can say black.
I know, but that's my sensitivity. I'm just saying, in this culture today, it just seems like that's a sensitivity, because it can be interpreted. People that are called racist never use the N word. They always just they say the word black, but yet what they do is very racist. You know what I'm saying? They don't ever
Let me encourage people first language and say person of color or person who identifies as, or just.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, and
I don't know.
I may have to switch to speakers if my AirPods die, but when it comes to background, I only went to school with a handful of those of color. A couple of them athletes, one sister of one of the athletes. You hear what they've gone through. One family was here; they had a cross burned in their front yard. But that, as I grew up, it wasn't any of that anymore. There's a lot more. If the word acceptance in our community was there, or open arms. I don't even know if it's open arms. I don't know. It's not that way now. I'll tell you that, at least in my opinion. But there is a root of racism here. And but my personal experience is, I've never considered my person, having any racist tendencies or mentalities or actions. Jared and I grew up, and we have friends of all backgrounds. And I've never looked at it as color. I looked at it as people, friends, acquaintances, people like, you go to church with, that kind of thing. And so, but there was stereotypes a lot, especially being an all-white basketball team, going and playing an all-white, African-American team. And it's very, it was a we, they, you know what I'm saying? That felt, it was a race thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to take you down. No, we're going to take, in some of the games, there was a lot of racist slurs and names, back and forth. But it almost felt like that was just our culture, not something personal. It's kind of like when the game's over, it's a good game, buddy, see you guys. Sometimes it got heated, but nothing dangerous or over the top, at least in my opinion, what it felt like,
I love
looking back on it.
No, I'm sorry, Landon. I just love that you say that, because you are identifying it as, this was our culture. This is just what was understood. And the reality is, it's like the education of the basis of training the mind, training our culture, our society, our American culture, to say it's us versus them. And when we live in an all-white environment, everything we hear and things that have been passed down from one generation to another, it has to be true, because I don't have anything around me or in front of me to dispel it now. And that's just very surface. One basketball team playing against another. One happened to be white, the other one was black. But it's funny, it's sad when you go into the professional world, those simple, like, little things that you as a white person be like, well, I was taught this. It was never like argued, or it was never taught to me any other way. So all black people must be like this. And when you go in and you tell people, like, I got married at 21, and, both my parents were at home, like, they got married before they had me. Do you know what I'm saying? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jared.
No, you're starting to digress, and I was wanting to give Landon the opportunity to finish his point and then get to the question that he said that he had.
No, I love the back and forth banter. That's how I am. I'm it's kind of an organic thing.
He's a businessman.
But, yeah. I'm good at probing, so I haven't even probed yet.
I want you to probe.
But so that was the culture, and what's great though about what has happened, the good thing is it's brought light to a lot of things that I just didn't see before. And Jared and I have had that conversation, and I've done a lot of research that he sent me, and I hope what I sent him, he's watched. He's never said anything good though. I'm just kidding. But there's a lot of stuff he shared, documentaries and stuff I've watched, and it's just been very eye-opening. Some of it seems a little one-sided, and I've shared that, but no need to go there. The cool thing is I've had a conversation with my CPA is a person of color. A good friend of mine graduated with him. He was one of the families that, I grew up with in this community. He was the only family of color in this city. Mind you, at that time, probably 6,000 people, So that kind of gives you even more.
God bless him.
Exactly. Man, he was strong. But I asked him,
he's a good guy.
you know, I said, Kevin, have you experienced this? And he goes, yeah. And I said, he goes, but only in one way. Not in business. He's a very successful businessman and owns a business in the middle of this city across from the largest bank and is very, very, very successful and well respected. Supports the community. They support him. It's really good. So, I mean, it's really shifted in a lot of good ways. But he goes, when I was in high school and college, when I got serious, when I was dating a white girl, I'd meet her father and the relationship always ended. Wow. And I was like, wow, I never even thought of that because I never saw that. I mean, he always had, you know, a lady friend around him in high school on the basketball team. You know, he was a little, I was better in basketball than him. He just won't admit it. The other side of it
Larry
is that,
Bird.
No, I'm more like John Stockton, the itty bitty guy.
Oh, okay.
Steve Kerr, that's a good one. But
Dreams.
I play a lot of golf here at this community, and this is where a lot of the racism is. I mean, these are the old members, 60s, 70s, 80s. An 80-year-old gentleman I played golf with when all that George Floyd, I believe, forgive me if I miss.
No, you didn't say that wrong.
Yeah.
We're on our last hole playing together, and he goes, man, there's just a lot of this racism stuff going around. And I go, yeah, you know, I didn't bring it up. He did. You know, I was there to play golf, not talk politics. But I said, yeah, and you know, it's, you know, there's a lot of good and unfortunately there's a lot of bad happening because of it. And he goes, well, you know what, son? You know where George Floyd's lips are? See that effing tree over there?
Great.
And I'm like, did I just hear that? I mean, I've only heard that stuff on a movie.
Yeah.
And he did it with them just at peace. And he was serious as all get out with a crazy smile on his face.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. And I felt bad. You know, that's from the, yeah. So anyway, I'll get to the question.
No, you're good.
The question, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I lost one earpod, so I got one left. But I know the topic of racism where just the heartbreak and disgust of our history, right? Do you think because of the roots of that, Monet, that if you flip it around, will people of color ever look at us with equality?
The irony is we already do. I mean,
do you?
Yeah. I have no
and what I mean by that is I feel now, as you've seen displayed in NBA football and all, you know, Black Lives Matter and a lot of great stuff and attention brought to this, right, on the biggest stages. Love it.
Yeah.
But I feel the table has shifted.
To what?
To where the people of color are now getting in places of leadership and are going to shift our history because of the shame that we brought to it, instead of honoring history in some fashion, not because of what happened, but because of where we were as a country and to where we are now as a country. If we're going to grow, like you said, and we're supposed to bring light to stuff we just didn't see, we bring it to the surface, have these candid conversations, and fix it. If I can just use that for a simple phrase, even though it's not simple. But we can't, in my opinion, eliminate the roots by which it happened, eliminate history, and take down that part of our history. You know, because at that time, just like you said, culture, that was normal, a worldwide normal, and in many ways still is. There has always been slavery since the beginning of humankind. And so, in some fashion. And so I'll leave it at that. And so, I don't know. I don't know exactly how I feel about that. And I don't even know if I'm communicating the question correctly.
You're fine. You're speaking candidly from your heart. And that's the best way you can communicate. Jared, is my turn. Can I rebuttal?
Oh, no, absolutely. Go ahead and respond, please.
So Landon, what I want to say to you is, no, you Americans, let me tell you something. I've been to Ellis Island 3 times, okay? I am a minority. I've been to Georgia, North Carolina, to plantations. Williamsburg, Virginia, #1 American history destination. I have to say to you, you cannot get rid of our history. You can, it's like, but you can teach it correctly. George Washington led this country to the freedom that
Can
we
I
now
say what
have.
you did? Can I
Go ahead,
applaud
please.
with what you just said?
Yeah.
That's
it's not-
probably one of the best statements I've heard. Seriously. I mean, I won't forget that.
So thank you, Landon. My point is, look, I've had my grandfather, my father, my stepfather, and my ex-husband, all armed service members. 2 Army, 3 Army, 1 Marine. Okay. Were there things that should have been, nationalism is nature. I was born in this country, therefore I love what this country represents. Like I said, we talked about it, Jared. When you look at the Olympics, we're like screaming for Dominique Dawes and Phelps and all, like anybody of any nationality. I can't remember all of the Hispanic and the Native Americans and the Asian Americans that have represented our country and all the world stages. But the beauty is we do have camaraderie. I literally am saying, okay, so you can't get rid of what we've already established. What you can is add an adjunct to everything. This was horrible. Something tears, the Native Americans across the land. Trail of Tears. Mm-hmm. That needs to be expunged upon. We need to talk about that more. Not like look at white people and be like, because then what we're dealing with now is 2, 3, a million communities against white people. Okay, with it, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, but not all white people are bad. And you guys, I'm serious. A lot more of you are not bad than, you know what I'm saying? The thing is, you don't know how to deal with telling another racist. Not another, but a racist person. Okay. I will talk about, give me a second on that one, because, I don't want to feed the narrative that, well, Black people are racist too. No, we're not going to, that's another conversation for another day, because that's a community. You're talking about a community of people that have been victimized and traumatized and have generational trauma. Yeah. And they're exhibiting it through various forms. So I'm talking about a race of people that have to be nurtured to the extent that they have to wake up and realize, okay, now we're all in this game together. Okay. But like I said, that's a conversation about race from a Black perspective that needs to happen. But okay. But with regards to white Americans, me and Jared, we touch on it very simplistically. Just be a good person. Be kind, be nice. And when we talk about American history, yes, we could talk about George Washington. We could talk about the fact that he owned slaves. And we could talk about what slaves had to do during that time. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we can parallel our history, but still respect the fact that we're Americans, because we wouldn't afford these opportunities if we didn't have that foundation. So you can't eradicate it. You can't get rid of it. It's here. You just have to tell the truth on a lot of other things.
Fair point. Landon,
he's muted. Why are you muted, Landon?
Hey, man, we can move on to the next question, or Landon, if you want to respond to that.
No, I mean, I'd love to move on to the next question. I can't believe it's already 6:45.
All right. So, next question.
By the way, what you said, Monet, I love a lot about. I feel a lot when you said, an entire community. If we're not careful, I think the picture of the white community in our nation could change to the worse. And I say that because I don't trust a larger percentage of our nation. I don't think 60% of our nation would even considering anything we're discussing right now.
That's the problem. See, when I talk to y'all, coming from a psychiatric standpoint, I'm looking at scared white people. Landon, scared white people are scary, because then they
it's not a scared white people thing. I mean, for me, it's a realism thing.
Well,
it's like it's so focused one-sided.
Yeah.
On the positive, and it's so focused. It's a two-way street. Look what they've done, and look who they are. And it's once. One second, my baby's asking.
Yeah, I love it. He's got 4 kids, y'all.
That was his youngest.
It's cute.
Yeah.
Look,
Yes,
I
yes.
just
But my point is, what I was saying is, people of color, the group, the perception you see in news, social media, are on the aggressive.
yeah.
Minority is on the aggressive.
Mm.
And then white community only, which is very unique, because if you think about all of the influence of all of the world that has shaped this country, the white person is being demonized only,
I
as
love
if
it.
they
It's
were
true.
the only one in the room. And that is just very small-minded and immature to think that way. And immature meaning lack of experience, lack of research, etc. Just taking it for what it is. That's bullshit. But anyway, if we're not careful, it's redefining a race, because a race was defined as a slave, as a minority. You know what I mean? It's like shifting. It's a civil war without a civil war. It's a different type of civil war, and it's happening. And if we don't handle it correctly, and if there's not right leadership and right influence, then we're headed to a dangerous situation.
Well, we need
refuse to
leadership
think that way, but I'm realistic that it could happen that way.
I
Not-
think you're right.
However,
I
look,
feel that too.
However, I'm
anything
hopeful.
Hold
I'm
on, Monet.
hopeful it doesn't. I'm hopeful it doesn't, and I'll do everything in my home and my influence in a small way to influence another home, and then go from there.
All right, Monet.
That's the
please.
objective. Sorry.
No, sorry.
No, Landon, that's the objective. The objective is for the individual white person to not have to think in a herd mentality and think, I know I'm a good person. I know. And when you acknowledge that you're a good person and you hear negativity, okay, like you said, 60% of this nation, which happens to be a large majority of white people, are like, I don't want to hear, because the media, the social media, and I know if I was a minority, I would be very mad at my race of people. Therefore, they're just going to be mad at us. And the reality is, a large majority, I can say, considering I live in an all Black community, an all minority, a person of color community, okay, for real. It's like, I just want to go to work, but I want to be treated fairly. I just want to be able to drive my car and not have to experience fear when I see a police officer. I want to be able to invest in a bank or go to the bank and literally be judged on my scores, not on my race. Because 2015, 2016, the lawsuit with Wells Fargo that proved that that's what they were doing. And these are
that is the sickest report I've ever seen. That was just gross.
Yes.
Banking.
But
Anyway,
the fact of the matter is, Landon, these are realities for people like me, okay?
I know, but you're forgetting the other side of it.
Landon,
Act like
I had her finish, so I'm going to ask. I know that you got the banter, man, but I'm just wanting to make sure that we got.
I want to hear what he has to say.
Okay, all right, my bad.
Sorry, go ahead, Landon.
The other side of it is that we, like I said, like before, is that it's as if a bunch of white rich men that are corrupt as hell got in a room and shaped our nation. Maybe they did.
That's exactly what happened.
Hold on.
That is exactly what happened. Everybody that wrote that Constitution were landowners, so they were rich. Okay.
But the diversity, well, there's a ton of diversity in today's democracy. Would you agree?
Oh,
Women,
yes.
race.
But
okay.
Yes, because they use
the same.
The way the Constitution. Can I just say this? When they wrote the Constitution, these were also very wealthy men that did not look at minorities as individuals. They didn't look at Native Americans as a human. They didn't look at Blacks as human. So when they wrote it, they didn't really realize that they were actually writing it for all of us. All men are created equal. When they said that, they were actually thinking about themselves. But if we remember when I said at the beginning, if we take the Constitution for what it was, with the intent on goodness for all, then it does mean all of us. And we can subtract the fact that it was a whole bunch of rich men. Well, see, these rich men were living under tyranny, they felt. So they felt like the oppressed. So when they said that, when they said all men were created equal, they were like, we're nixing out the monarch. We're not. So they were thinking
I know, but what about Abraham Lincoln? I mean,
what about him?
Well, the history being taught correctly, you're right. But let me go back real quick, because I know we're going to move on it, and I don't want to forget it.
I want you to say it.
I wish that our nation, with the focus of this topic, which is so intense and awesome, and good and bad, and there's a lot of the needles going back and forth until we land somewhere in the next 6 months to a year, especially after the election. But period, yes. But
Landon, I've reached out to I don't know how many of my conservative friends. You're the only one, and you're still not showing your face, but you're the only one that's here. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I already know there's victimization, there's self-doubt, there's discomfort within a large majority of white people, a relative sense of fear, a relative sense of like, I don't understand what's going on. It's too much at once. And I feel some way somebody's trying to make me feel inferior. When in reality, it's like, no, I just want to feel like a regular person. And I want to point out to you, I want you to see, like, look, this is what has happened. Now, you don't agree with it. So if you see it happening to somebody else, whether they're black, white, Hispanic, or whatever, say, hey, that's not right. Instead of, well, it's not me, I'm good. Or that's just what happens to those people. That's the dialogue. This is what needs to happen. And I'm look, can I be honest? I don't want you to feel like I'm making a dig at the fact that you're not showing your face. I am enthralled. I am blessed that you are here right now. Because this is
you called him out.
Oh, look at this.
You called him out.
Don't call my goat. I'm here right now.
So
what a handsome
I don't back away. I love it. I want to run towards it. I love hearing what truth is and
that's what I'm
culture
talking about.
And what people, why they believe what they believe. I love it.
Well, then Landon, go ahead and finish what you were trying to say.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What I was saying, I hate that background. That's ridiculous.
I love it. It's the world.
Hold on. Let me, because I want to show you that I lean to the,
this way.
Sides. Check it out. I'm West Coast.
All right.
Coast.
Okay.
I love San Francisco, by the way. And California's amazing. Expensive, but amazing. Airbnb. But in all seriousness, I think what I was saying is that I wish that intensity that we have focused on this topic would be also focused on very important topics of the home, of marriage, of abortion, of all races being targeted by cash advance companies and keeping people in debt, and the banking structure that's screwing over people, not just race, stock market, and just all those things. And here's the thing, for me, I'm trying to, walk the walk and not just say this, but actually get engaged. And that's what I really respect about both of you, and also respect about what, my brother's doing. Personally, I just love it. And now I'm doing myself. I mean, I've already got a plan. When I turn 40, I'm going to run the city council here in my city, get involved. And, we're involved in our local church community, making a difference with generosity of all people, and being served ourselves, being blessed by other people. It's just, I don't imagine that both ways. But nonetheless, it just, there are so many important, passionate topics that need this kind of attention. And I hope that this isn't the only thing that our nation focuses on.
No, look. Honestly, if you listen to our first podcast to even this one, we're morphing between politics, race, just human decency. Like it is an evolution in conversation. It's now like we have 3 educated people sitting here right now having a very difficult conversation, and we're laughing. And we're enjoying it, and we're acknowledging, because and I know, look, you want to talk about, in my mind as a nurse, it's like a chess game. We're right now on move number 1 or 2, but I'm already on move number 5, knowing that our future podcasts are going to have to include different diverse minorities, Black people only, and let's listen to what that conversation is. Us being as candid as we usually always are, I want white people to have a voice. And let me tell you why. Because people are people, and people have feelings. You cannot sit here and dictate to a white person. This is, if I were white, so I have to put myself in a white person's mindset. If I were to hear for the first time all of the atrocities that this country has committed and is continuing to commit towards, the negativity, you mentioned it, Landon. See, a liberal, a very staunch liberal, would look at it and be like, "Oh, he's deflecting. But he's talking about real issues. These are things with the cash. What did he say, Jared?
Capitalism.
Yes. Yes.
No,
Jared.
cash advance.
Yeah,
Oh, cash advance. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the cash advance
they
places.
target military communities, poor
Yes,
white communities, poor
exactly.
Hispanic communities. Of all races, and it is gross. And
so,
anyway.
No,
I mean,
that's
bad.
That's my point. We actually, when you said a whole bunch of rich men got together and created this, it's rich people saying we want to keep staying rich.
Mm-hmm.
And we as a nation have to say, okay, we're going to talk about this race thing so we can come together. And then we're going to be like, I'm kind of comfortable with the lifestyle I have. I mean, this is as far as I want to, not want to go, but.
No, that's a good point. I mean, the foundation of a relationship has to be resolved before we can talk about.
Yes.
Because
the two-party
reformation
system,
and any other topic.
The two-party system has to go. It is a form of manipulation. It is a form of division. And we are Americans. We're united, okay? We went to war for that, so we can stay united. So now we need to look and say, what candidate has our best interest as Americans, not necessarily as minorities, not to maintain a level of poverty in this country. Okay, our poverty is nothing like a lot of other countries, okay? We all know that for a fact. But the reality is, we can do better.
True, but hunger is still hunger.
Yeah.
Death is still death.
Yeah. Exactly. But we can still do better.
Oppression. Oh, absolutely. I mean, a crazy thought process is the money. Think about the $500 million that was spent. What is his name? Bloomberg? No, was it Bloomberg?
It was Bloomberg.
What, that other candidate that was
Bill
running?
Bloomberg. Yeah, finance.
Think about the money.
Yeah.
Think about the money where that $500 million could have gone to benefit something else other than an agenda that isn't even remembered.
All the candidates, Landon, all of them. They should never. The billions spent across the board on both political spectrums. That's billions of dollars that could go into our infrastructure and make us better.
Third-party private organizations that are doing the same thing without being recognized and doing so. So it's absurd. I bet I can only imagine it's
trillions.
1 to 3 trillion, and that's probably being conservative.
Yeah.
In the timeshare for it. So anyway, it's kind of like, we can vote in the right person, but because of a corrupt system, it's just like a bad company. You put a good person in a bad system, they're going to get spit out because they're pissed. And we're bought. And then that's our government from top down, and the smallest to the largest. And it's just got to be reformed, period. I mean, and you're right, though. Relationships, I believe, man, and history taught right, can lead to that. And
yes.
And so we resolve relationships and look at each other as a person. Man, a lot of good things can be achieved.
We've got about maybe 10 more minutes or so.
That's a win.
So I'm going to give one last question, and then, but bear in mind that we seriously are down to our last 10 minutes. So maybe about 3 to 4 minutes for both of you. And I am going to be watching. So last question. Landon, you're up. What are morals, man? What do you think morals are?
I mean, that's your foundation of truth. I think how you define that will give you the foundation of what you think integrity, character is. And the reason why I say that is because I've seen, and we talk about this in America, this is not a normal conversation around the world. The normal conversation around the world for most billions of them, or a good portion, a far gross number of our world population, they don't think about morals. They think about truth, and truth to them is survival. And surviving in any facet will lead to what your morality is. And when it comes to that, here in America, we don't have really a survival problem. That's why we can talk about this topic in a different light. And when you see people and you meet a woman in Haiti that literally, one second.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry. But when you meet others in a different part of the world, I can't imagine sitting down with a mom that's holding 2 children that haven't eaten in a day, that is thankful for our organization feeding them and giving them a month's worth of food and building a hurricane-proof shelter and teaching them how to grow their own food, to sit down and talk morality. And I say that, and I know this isn't the direction you wanted to go.
No, it's your direction. It's fine.
But my point in that, because I don't want to talk to this about a political side. Yes, morality leads to the foundation of the decisions that are made. And morals in this nation, defined by what Americans think of morality, in my opinion. And we can go as far as, morality is defined by your faith and things along those lines. But that's not this conversation. That's
only if you want it to be.
Yeah,
well,
it is. It's your answer.
True. But I'm trying to make it relevant across the board, because truth can be faith. Truth can be, your relationship with who you call God, etc. But my point is, truth then leads to survival. Survival leads to I'll do anything. And knowing that these families are teaching their children on how to steal to survive.
Wow.
Just to survive.
And that's what truth is to them. So do they have morals? Are they corrupt? Yeah, but to them, they're not. Because you said their culture is different. Their mindset's different. How they grew up is
their
different.
Circumstances are different.
True. But I think we're talking about a race card bigger than just our nation. I think a lot of it elevates to the world, because the world is paying attention. And there's a lot of great protests and marches around the world too. And so if you're going to talk world relationship, which is where we're at, we're not just America. We are one world, in some fashion, a one world democracy because of how business deals are done, country to country. So with
Landon, I'm lost.
What?
I'm lost.
Well, no.
I want you to talk about what morals are.
To me,
what are
or
morals to you? What do you, when you have your moral base?
She's the one that wrote these questions, by the way.
Sure.
Because the reality is, we can't project what other people's morals are and what examples of others' morals are. In our core, what are morals? For instance, my bedroom, my bed isn't in the middle of the living room, and I'm not going to have adult relations in front of my children. That's morally wrong. That's disgusting, as a matter of fact. That's something the child shouldn't have to deal with.
Think about it like this, Landon. If you have to, if one of your kids came up to you and said, "Hey, we were talking morals in class today. I'm still confused. Can you help me with this? What are morals?"
Because I know you were trying to jump, because the focus of it has a lot to deal with our current political climate. Obviously, I wouldn't have asked the question. But the reality is, we can't look at something else and then draw from it and answer it for ourselves. We have to draw from within and then answer it outward. Because if we draw from within, then we can ask of that from everything around us.
Okay, so
instead of expecting something outside of us to have it.
Yeah, that's. I guess I just don't.
But you were thinking from a political
Monet,
perspective.
Stop.
Sorry.
No, I just.
You're good.
I mean, that's such a big question, because it's a loaded question. Because if I'm talking to my son, and I've got four kids, 3 boys, 18, especially talking to him. Heck, I've got 1 year left with him. Internally in my home, that's a different question, because of our faith, because of who we strive to be, because of what we value. But well,
that's where it comes from, Landon.
I know.
Period.
You're asking. True. But my point is, we've been talking about influence as a nation, and yes, it starts in the home. But my
my definition of morals doesn't line up with other people's
Who
definition of morals.
cares?
That's
not the point. That's not the point.
Who cares what other people do? If you taking care of home, because you did mention that at the very beginning of this podcast, if you taking care of home, that's where it starts, isn't it?
So but you're assuming that everybody has the same definition of morality.
I don't care what everybody else does.
I know, but then you shifted the conversation to a different topic, in my opinion. And so, but my definition of moral, if I'm talking to my son, integrity. When no one's looking, you're doing the right thing.
Period.
You do what you say you're going to do, and and then at the same time, you're going to treat others as good as you treat yourself, and literally live a life of generosity. And so, obviously, don't steal, don't cheat, don't lie. Be one that honors leadership and honors the elders.
Amen.
And things along those lines. And if we're going to say amen to that, then you got to go back in the generation. Because I would feel really bad. And this is way off the wall. But, with a lot of the leadership in the past that is being criticized today, and I'm talking in the 60s all the way back to 1776. Man, I would be nervous as someone that's attached to that lineage, to that family. And, but at the same time, I'd be offended. But that's just me. And so
I want to freeze this conversation
back to morality,
in the future.
That's such a loaded question because I can't take my home and force it on your home. And so we have to, as a nation, when we come together and fix that relationship, we need to define the values that are going to govern our cities, our state, our federal government. And at that time when that was all written by a bunch of white rich men, their values were aligned. Agree with it or disagree with it, they were still able to lay a foundation that has allowed us the liberty to have this conversation. And that I'm grateful for.
Yeah, I am grateful for that. I wrote the question when I wrote that particular simple, just was the 3 words. What are morals? I wrote it because instinctively, I don't care what other people do. I want people to do right, but I know it starts with the individual. I want people to realize that if you want America to change, it starts here. Michael Jackson said it in his song. We all know it. I will pray for everybody. I will pray that everybody does the right thing, but I know it starts with me. I am a reflection of what I desire. If I want goodness, if I want kindness, if I want respect for one another, I have to morally establish myself. I have to align my morals with my actions and then demand it outside of myself. You knew I wrote this question with a political agenda. I mean, currently, I don't like I haven't liked it. And I think as Americans, we could go back for the last, 4 presidents, with the exception of maybe one, okay? But when it comes with, is your public persona and your private persona the same? 2. I would say 2. 2 of the last 4 presidents really were pretty, even though, they both did 2 terms. That's all I have to say. That's coming from a political perspective. Whether you liked one or the other, one was a Republican, one was a Democrat. And the opposite parties didn't like each other. But the reality is, morally, we didn't have as much strife as we're currently experiencing now because Americans have said, I'm going to lower my moral bar and allow just like, I don't care. I like when people just say dumb stuff and expect that, sorry about that. I'm gonna like when people say dumb stuff because they're speaking honestly. No, you can speak honestly without being critical or antagonistic or angry.
Dumb.
Yeah. I want
research what you're talking about.
Yes.
Exactly.
I want us to demand morality from our leaders. And I want us to demand morality from ourselves. Because so the point of the question was, if we have a moral compass, we're reflecting it, we'll then ask for it instead of expecting it from our representatives. Because it's like we morally have aligned ourselves with what is aligned with goodness, kindness, respect for others, Do you understand what I'm saying? And when we do that, that's the nation we all want to live in. Period.
No,
Please.
last thing
final comment. We got to wrap it up.
No, I just want in agreement, the way we started with agreement. I think it's a great way to show, wow, you can have a lot of different opinions, but wow, we can work together. But I would say those values that you just mentioned, like respect, etc., goodness, kindness, and the willingness to see the other side, man, those are really good moral compasses that can really help.
And that is the very point of this conversation, Landon. So I very much appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come and speak with us and join our conversation. Excuse me. And that's really the whole point of it, is to find that common ground, find the commonalities, to where it's no longer you versus me or us and them. It's now we can do this and we can work this out. And even if it just, and like Monet and what you had said, both, it starts with yourself. It starts in the home. It starts with self-reflection and education. And then for me, it'd be self-reflection to be able to grow and be able to express that outwardly. So again, Landon, thank you for joining our conversation. If you liked what you hear, guys, please join our conversation. Hit us up, email tntwithmj@gmail.com. That's TNT with MJ@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter or social media, wherever you find your Google, wherever you find your podcasts. Please join our conversation. Landon, again, thank you for
Yay! What's the name of his company again?
It's DBS Dogboy Sam, dbsadvantage.com.
Yay!
And he's very good at what he does, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, that's the first time he's ever said that. Thank you.
Oh, no, he told me that so many times. Not you.
Publicly, yeah.
He told me. All right.
There we go. He's never said that at a family dinner. Love you guys. Thank you for what you do.
Love you too, Monet. Final word.
You just love everybody. Remember, we got to fight the good fight and stay good and positive.
There it is. Until next time, guys.
Bye.